Hey, Henry McClure. We're live on my YouTube channel. I don't have a lot of followers on YouTube. I've only got like 15 followers on YouTube. Here's Stewart. So anyway, Matt McClure, little brother. Matt's helping me today around 2,900. I gotta get one end of this cleaned up, and we're 2,900's moving on, to the next place. But Matt, we ought to make a video. We're making a video about Harry Kalmary. They just had a big dedication of his thing down, and we ought to go look at it. You and I ought to go look at it. But we knew living history. My memories of Harry Kalmary were Dad taking us down on Saturdays to the office when it was in the old First National Bank, where Amvestors is now.
Right.
And
7th floor.
Yeah. And and then Harry would take us out to lunch or breakfast down at some
Jayhawk.
No, it was some little restaurant on Topeka.
Right there on 7th next to Capital Federal.
Yes.
That was Mama, the original Mama Elma's.
Really?
It sure was.
Man, I remember.
The cinnamon rolls were like this big.
I would get like French toast and an egg, like
Hash brown.
Get an egg, one egg sunny side up, and and French toast. And Harry, I always thought I thought he was like Winston Churchill.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, he's the perfect picture.
No, he looked like Winston Churchill. And he'd have the cigar with the cane, and he was a fossil when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And so
he was a fossil.
He was a fossil.
He's an old curmudgeon.
And he lived at the Jayhawk. He had a house in Potwin.
Greenwood.
And so Matt and I, if you don't know the dynamics, Matt and I we're brothers of different mothers. And Matt grew up with Dad all the time. And I was the guy that would come in and visit. And and Matt's mom and dad stayed together forever, So then Matt also worked for Dad.
And
Harry.
I just had the desire to be around Dad so much I went to work for him and played golf with him, and he was a workaholic, and so he was either in the office or on the golf course or at home.
So let's talk about though Harry Kalmary. I mean,
boy,
because Harry,
he had this.
When did you start working for Dad? And Harry Kalmary and our dad were law partners.
1980.
Okay.
I was 14.
And was that in the new bank building?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was on the 10th floor, Suite 1000, Bank of America. At that time, I think it was still might have been First National. It was First National, and then Bank of America bought it, or Bank 4 bought it, and then Bank of America.
But how long did you work with Harry
before he passed away?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe 2 or 3 years at the very most, because Dad was in that corner office and Harry was in the big office with the mahogany panels.
Well, actually, that's Rosewood. That is indigenous of the Philippines.
Philippine mahogany.
Yeah, given to him by the president of the Philippines.
For being the chief architect of the Philippine Constitution.
Yeah, which the guy negotiated the Philippine Treaty.
Which, in addition to his being the chief architect of the GI Bill of Rights, he was a constitutional law writer, which is genius in its own self. And so the president of the Philippines gave him, 15 4x10 panels.
It was beautiful.
Philippine mahogany, and he did his entire office in this. His office was probably 1,500 square feet.
I got into an argument with one of the jackleg lawyers that's in there now about
They stripped it all out.
I think they did. I don't think they knew what the fuck they had.
No, they stripped it all out. And they took the doors over to the Goodell building. to
Yeah,
new
the
building.
doors are over
Yeah,
there.
The doors are still
And
there.
Harry's portrait is over there.
Right.
In fact, I made a commitment to try to get. I was going to work Jerry Goodell at the tour. Yeah, I was going to work him. He looked like he was having just enough time shuffling around.
Yeah, well,
The KDI tour was pretty cool.
that was way cool. Yeah, no, that facility is beautiful, and it's good to have it all together now that they can be more effective. And yeah, that guy that was leading, we didn't get his introduction. We didn't see the second floor, but it was really incredible.
But back to Harry Calmary. Let's reel it back into Harry.
You know, he had this massive desk in there, and it was just full of stacks of stuff. And then there was, several cigar boxes, but he used to smoke these green Churchill cigars.
They're called Churchill Rejects.
Yeah, Churchill Rejects.
Because Dad always smoked them then after that.
Yeah, right. Well, so Harry would come in, and his teeth were all yellow, and his hair was, this silver. And it was almost bald, so he only had a few strings that he'd come back. And
I don't ever really remember the guy even having hair.
yeah, he had a few strings that he'd pull back. He was kind of thin, but he was a nice old curmudgeon, and Churchill of stature, and it's that generation, part of the greatest generation in our lives.
I was telling you earlier about having a piece of the surrender deck of the Mo and Dad. But the day I met my dad,
Right.
that day, Dad was telling me about how Harry, went into MacArthur and asked him to be president. And
Yeah, he was the president of the RNC when Truman resigned his presidency, or did not continue to run, and the RNC asked him to go talk to MacArthur, and MacArthur rejected the opportunity, and then they went and saw Eisenhower, and Harry went and saw Eisenhower with a couple of his other RNC committee.
but Dad was
chairs.
telling me that they'd be on the phone getting this is when he's president.
Oh, really?
And yeah, Harry and Eisenhower and Dad like on a conference call.
Well, who was the guy from Kansas that ran for vice president or president? And Harry was his chief of staff. Used to live out in the governor's mansion.
You mean Alf Landon?
Yeah. Well, was it Landon?
Alf Landon ran for president. But
Yeah.
that was way early.
Yeah, Harry was his chief of staff.
Huh? As a young man?
Yeah. Yeah, and then Harry during this time when he was writing GI Bill of Rights and really inactive with the RNC in Washington, he used to have a suite at whatever the hotel that is.
Well, I think it was the Mayfair.
Yeah, right. It's like this really high dollar
Right.
hotel.
He had an apartment there.
Right. This suite way up and at that time, Frank Sabatini, who in his right is one of the fathers of Topeka today, and he and his wife Judith are very philanthropic and wonderful people. Used to be his back.
We got a Sabatini commercial.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
He's beholden to the Sabatini. No,
The
Frank has been really good to me.
yeah, Frank's been great to me. Frank and Judith are fantastic people. The whole family's fantastic. I
I always thought that Frank was nice to me because of Dana Anderson. Their relationship. They went to KU together.
Frank was in the law firm.
Yeah,
with
Frank.
Dad.
Yeah.
And Harry. But
So he would go back. Frank told me a couple of
yeah,
stories.
Frank
about
would go
Harry.
back with Harry and be his bag man and be his right hand,
Well,
his secretary.
Don't. You got to be careful. Bagman has a different connotation.
Well, this was it. With all due respect, he was Harry's.
You've
right-hand man.
eloquently said he would carry his briefcase back there, not
Right.
calling him a bagman.
Yeah, right. Well, no mafia agenda here.
No, Frank would say, he'd even laugh. He goes, I think he, because he was a football player.
Right.
He goes, I think he'd have me around for security. But he goes, Harry would transform into just a different guy. And Dad would tell me these same stories because Harry didn't have any clients locally. All his clients were nationwide, worldwide.
National, worldwide.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So he'd come.
He had a different stage.
Well, yeah, he would go to Topeka, from Topeka wearing a $300 suit and put on a $5,000 suit, that he'd keep
In the
Mayfair.
60s.
Yeah.
In the 60s. Well,
Imagine.
he was in the company of presidents
Yeah.
and world leaders.
And Dad told me that Harry would have a staff going 24 hours a day.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, because Harry,
Well, this guy
He
only
didn't
slept like
drink.
3 or 4 hours a night, man. The guy slept at his desk half the time.
you know, he didn't drink. You know, he smoked cigarettes,
Cigars.
cigars.
I didn't know he didn't drink.
No, he didn't drink. Dad said he didn't drink. You know, well, not like you, me, and Dad drank,
Well,
but nobody did. Nobody could.
it was pretty unhealthy.
It's pretty hard to keep up with the McClure when we're, you know, I'm a retired
In our-
professional.
In our cups.
I'm a Hall of Famer. Our dad was a Hall of Famer.
I mean, my right. Hall of Famer. But we're moving on from those dregs.
1 year, 2 months, 21 days, and about 11 hours for me. So,
Congratulations.
yeah, I'm keeping track. I can't help but keep track. But anyway, and I look forward to every day.
It's another day of freedom.
Yeah, it's great. So, yeah, so I don't really have a lot. You know, it's not like I didn't. My last thing, really, or interaction with Harry as a kid was when Dad was settling his estate. You know, Harry died without a will.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I knew that he called Harry Jr. out in California and was working intensely with Harry Jr. on putting his estate together. The last thing I really remember was about Harry Comrie was Dad assigned Tim and myself.
Tim's
My
Tim's
brother,
Matt's other half brother,
right, to go out
the tooth.
and go clean up.
He's got no teeth.
And go clean up.
Oh no, come on!
Harry's house.
This is part of
out in Potwood.
this is part of Henry.
And there was in his house out in Potwood in Topeka, which is one of the oldest neighborhoods in the community, cobblestone streets and just wonderful Victorian homes. Harry had this home that was in disrepair, hadn't been lived in probably 20 years. And so there were cobwebs and cats and mice and, you know, so we're going through and cleaning this all up, and there's treasures all over the place, antiques, and up under the stairs in the secret cabinet, we find this big jug of shine.
moonshot.
Yeah, big jug, crock.
Well, maybe
crock
his
with the cork in it.
the rumors of his abstinence are maybe a little.
Well, it may have been medicinal.
Yeah.
Because at that time things were medicinal.
sure.
You know, if you have a little headache or you can't get to sleep, instead of taking a tranquilizer, you take a tranquilizer.
Or you got to make her get willy.
Yeah, well, I don't think Harry worried about that too much. I don't know that I ever saw him escort any. I always saw him in a professional arena.
Okay. Well, anyway, so one day Dad called me up. He goes, "Hey, I need you to do something for me." And you never knew what Dad was going to have up his sleeve. You never knew, really. And he goes, "Look, I need you to go to Pioneer Life Insurance. I need you to walk in the back door. They're going to be waiting for you."
This the one on 3rd and Topeka?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He goes, "So go in, take a."
Harry's building too?
Well, Harry owned Pioneer Life.
Yeah, right. Oh.
And he goes, "All right, now go all the way down to the end of the hall, and there's 2 chairs in front of the desk, and the chair, behind the desk. Collect those and bring them up to my office." I go, "Okay." So I go in there, and I walked in. The receptionist is there.
I think you had the white truck at this time.
Yeah,
You
I had
were
the
on
white truck.
Buchanan.
Exactly.
You remember putting me on that big 750K?
Oh man, your feet wouldn't even touch the ground on my motorcycle.
Stopped at the stop sign and it fell over. I had to have a guy pick it
No,
up
I know.
and hold it, put me back on it, and I zoomed off.
I sold that motorcycle and bought my first duplex at Clay and Empty. That I financed with a student loan.
Yeah,
So
that
anyway.
became the beginning of MCRE.
There
real estate.
was a lot of good stories there. And so I walked back there, and there's a guy sitting there working, and I said, "I'm Henry McClure," and he kind of like looked at me like, kind of gave what we call a hang dog look, you know. Okay.
I'm here to collect the chair you're sitting on.
Yeah, he was the president of Pioneer Life
Oh,
Insurance. Yeah. So the guy kind of had to stand up, move aside. You know,
I'm being moved out.
I'm thinking the guy's chair, and I'm laughing. You know, I'm thinking, well, not out loud, inside. And, you know, so the executor of the estate has got more power than the president of the company.
Well,
So
Harry was Bob McClure's mentor. He was a fantastic man.
Harry,
You
Harry,
and I can't even fathom.
no, I'll tell you what Harry,
depth of Harry
I'll tell you
Palmer.
what Harry was to Dad what Dana Anderson is to me. You know,
Role model, leader, mentor.
or Mace, maybe.
Sure.
Mace and Dana.
You've been very privileged to have them.
I always
those
have.
men as
Right.
leaders. in
It
your
was
life.
really fun to see Mace and Dad at the horse track. I took him up to San Nita. You know, Dad met Willie Shoemaker.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fun.
we
That
got
was
an
a privilege. That was
autograph.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dad enjoyed that.
Willie Shoemaker, he was this little guy, but he was like just proportional. You know what I mean?
Sure.
He didn't look like a midget. I mean, like if you stood far enough, he'd look like a regular guy.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, he was proportional.
Stand him up next to a horse. He was knee-high to a frog.
But man, he had these cigars that were like,
Really, she wakes.
yeah. And Mace was telling me stories about him getting drunk, you know. It wouldn't take much to get the guy drunk.
Yeah, Shoemaker. That's got to be Durban.
I don't know. Man.
Good.
He wasn't a cobbler. He was a good jockey.
No, I know. All right. He's like one of the most famous jocks in.
Yeah. Well, and then the horse track was fun because all, the celebrities would want to know Mace because Mace had so many racehorses. And so we're just like in the thick of things. So Mickey Rooney came up and said, hey. So Dad got to meet
That's
Mickey
cool.
Rooney, Mel Brooks.
Really?
Yeah. So Dad and Dick Van Patten, these were all guys that would go to the track all the time. I actually got to know Mel Brooks.
Did you ever meet George Burns?
No. Nope. But so
Art Carney.
no,
Those guys are great.
I never met Mel Brooks. Was a crack up.
Oh. He stands alone in comedy.
Yeah. So Harry Calmery. So this will be a chapter in the dad's dad, but the lawyer's lawyer, but not the dad's dad. And that's the way I looked at Dad. Until, I can appreciate Dad more today than I did. I had a real change of heart the day I met my dad. And there was a lot of anger that I had to Dad about, just not understanding him. You know what I mean? Just not having being.
You and I had a completely different experience.
Yeah.
There was for a long time, my dad was on a pedestal, and then about 16 or 17, he fell off his pedestal, and he became a real man to me. And then when I became a father, and I saw him become a grandfather, he really became
and
a man to me.
That kind of
And his love and
and
sincerity.
that was some of the friction that you and I had, we have or had as brothers. Of he went on a fucking pedestal to me ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like I said, you and I had a completely different relationship.
Well, and
with Dad.
yeah, and I respect that, and the more I know about Dad, and the nice, him being the lawyer's lawyer,
when when children can learn to accept their father's humanity and humanness and the fact that all humans make errors,
Yeah.
and we can come to terms with that and understand that that we shouldn't judge lest we be judged by the same measure, and that that then we have an opportunity to forgive and understand our parents or our fathers for the wonderful people that they are and the things that they did right as opposed to the things that they did wrong, because we all do things wrong.
You know, we're getting off the Harry Calmery topic, but that's okay. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, and maybe so, but you know, I only saw my mom and dad together 5 times together.
That's unfortunate.
That's fucked up.
That's unfortunate.
You know, I was a crybaby the other day because I didn't get to go to dinner with Bianca on her 21st birthday.
I was wondering if that was her 21st birthday. You know, you'd ask me to call her, and I called her half a dozen times, and she just apparently was too busy making plans. I told her to have a safe evening.
Well, that's cool.
For some reason,
That's all right.
For some reason, I had an indication, or I had some unction that this was a big birthday for her.
Well, you know, we went to breakfast and we
You have a wonderful relationship with
Yeah,
her.
I
That's
know.
very special.
we did, but
You're
we
lucky.
got manicures and pedicures. You know,
Beat that.
you know,
When was the last
my
time you had a
feet
manicure?
were funky.
You know, you needed it. You did.
Well, I'm very cognizant of my handwork.
I used to. When I waited tables at the Heritage House, I used to have manicures.
So, you know, I can't retell you how many times I cooked for Renee and her then boyfriend, and you know, holidays and things like that. And I never used Bianca as a pawn.
You can't.
No,
You
you
shouldn't.
can't use children as pawns.
Yeah. They don't deserve that.
No.
And they deserve you showing your ex-spouse your respect, because you're teaching them. I mean,
You know, it's like, it was like,
these are teachable learning opportunities.
well, I made sure, I'm not trying to catch extra credit here, but you know, Bianca, you got to call your mom. You know, Bianca, you got to go see your mom. You know, and a father should not use their daughter as a pawn no matter what. It's fucked up.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I know
on the other side of
I'm
the
trying to
scale,
sort out, there's some things,
on the other side of the scale, Henry, I had a different experience where it was best that my daughters were kept away. My children were kept away
well, yeah,
from my ex.
no, I got
And
that.
let's leave that dog lie. But
No, you don't have to confess your sins. On
no, I'm
my
not. No.
video.
I'm just, you know, I don't want to bring other people's business into, you know, I'm just saying we were talking about
Well, no
learning
parent-
and teachable
No
opportunities.
parent should ever use the kid as pawn.
No,
And I'm,
All right.
you know, big deal. Big fucking deal.
no. Bob and Shirley always taught me that, and you know, for the most part, I think they didn't do that. I hope they didn't do that.
Well, no, they couldn't. They were together.
Well, no. I'm talking. Listen, I'm his, hers, and ours, and I'm first, last, only. So and
Yeah, we have a really funny story about being only children.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are brothers, but we're only children.
Yeah.
And I'm the first and the last. I've got brothers and sisters,
So
half brothers, half sisters, step brothers, step sisters. The tree gets a little funky.
well, you know the truth of how Dad and Harry got in together, don't you?
I've got an idea
Okay, because you know Dad got kicked out of his dad's law firm,
for drinking.
and you know the judge, sober as a judge, you know the judge didn't drink.
Apparently, from Dad, the quote from the judge was,
Show me what,
"Show me one good thing about drinking, and I'll have a drink with you."
but yet the judge had a mistress.
Well,
Did you know that?
those were different times.
Did you know that?
Those were different times.
I guess it's a trade-off. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to be a drunk or get more pussy?
Come on. Come on. This may be family time.
Hey, it's my video.
So, okay.
Hey, this is R-rated.
Let's
No, but
let's
seriously,
keep it PG.
no, in your marriage, if
Let's
you got
keep
a
it
choice,
PG.
okay, I'll give up drinking. Think about it.
The judge was very
I never met the
accomplished man.
judge. You never met the judge.
I never met him.
Mom said the judge was just, and Louise were just the best people known to man.
You know, I was putting an alarm system in a lady's house out in Highland Park area for the company that I started about 15 years ago. And I was actually referred to her by her daughter, who was already an existing client of mine. And she said, do you know, man, a McClure, a Bobby McClure? And I kind of looked at her sideways and said, well, my father's Robert McClure. And she said, well, did he have a brother, Jimmy? And I said, yeah, I had James.
Jimmy and Bobby.
Jimmy and Bobby. She says, well, I used to work for the judge and change your father's and Jim's diapers and cook them dinner. And
We need to get her on the video.
yeah, I don't know if she's still around, but she may be. And I know exactly where she lives. But yeah, she was a fantastic
Well, you know
client.
the code to her house.
Well, she, as a matter of fact, she got a large discount. The installation went from $100 to a pan of that fried chicken she used to cook for my father.
Well, and Dad did love fried chicken.
Yeah, it was good. It was very.
Dad loved fried
We
chicken.
had collard greens and cornbread and fried chicken, and that was the installation fee. And I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to her and reminisce about the kids, the boys. And she told me, you know, Bobby used to run home from school. They went to Quinton Heights Elementary School, and they lived several blocks away. And apparently, Dad would run home and then go back to school and get in a fight, because if you didn't go home and you got in a fight, you were still the school's responsibility until you got home. So Dad would run home real quick and go back to the schoolyard and get in a fight. Therefore, he wasn't the school's responsibility or under their jurisdiction or punishment. So he just had to deal with the judge if he got caught fighting. And
I
that's
didn't
what,
know that one.
yeah, well, this is what this lady told me. I mean, you know, these are just pearls of information that you can get if you just listen to the laws of the community.
Oh no. You know what I get? I get more lawyers around town that talk about Dad in an endearing way. You know, yeah, your dad was always nice to me. You know, Dad mentored, you know, respected the young lawyers.
Well, and he said he had several proteges that he mentored and sent to
The only disparaging thing
Washburn.
I ever heard was from this asshole named Ralph Scoob.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Oh yeah,
But-
he tried to use the divorce and say things to talk to me in a manner, and actually, he's a big asshole as me. You know, I'm an asshole.
Who, Scoob?
Yeah, this Ralph guy.
Well, Dad probably whipped him somewhere
No.
in the legal
Actually,
arena.
when I go back and think about Ralph, he was just talking like I would talk to somebody. You know, just matter frankly and open.
Well,
I guess I'm taking back my opinion. It's hard to hate some guy that's just like you,
okay.
you know. But he said, "Oh yeah, your mom and dad's divorce was the scandal of town."
It was.
It was
It was.
Peyton Place.
It was terrible.
No, the guy's best friend.
Now let's.
Why?
Well, okay.
Why not? The guy's best friend. Are you going to get emotional?
No.
All right.
No.
No. This is a Harry Comrie.
This
This
is
is a Harry Comrie video. But you know, my attention deficit disorder.
I know. You know.
But
Listen,
it's nice to get you talking.
I don't want to get.
See, this is good therapy.
It's good to be talking, and I don't generally do these live things. I'm very
Matt hates this shit.
the social media. You know, it's fantastic for a lot of people. I just, you know, I think it.
Well, say hey to Andy Black. I don't know if Andy will watch this.
Yeah, I know Andy.
You know Andy?
You bet.
Mothman?
Yeah.
He's a Uber driver now in Kansas
really?
City. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Andy Black. I think he was part of that crew that you went on my 16th birthday at.
No.
I run around.
No, Andy is a friend of Jeff Bruce, the Meat Man.
Oh, okay. All right. That's where I know him from. I knew the name.
Now
sounded
you're thinking
familiar.
about Jerry Nooner,
Yeah.
which now he says Neuner.
No,
He's more. It's a German pronunciation. It's German.
yeah, that was
I'm
quite a bit.
grandfathered
You
into
remember,
calling
you
it
remember the
Nooner.
paper towels
Yes.
off
yes.
of the 7th floor rolling up?
I thought it was more
trash
like the 10th.
well, like a,
Whatever. We were high that day. I know I was.
man.
So I throw a roll of toilet paper or a roll of paper towels
Off
off
the
of the
maid service cart
maid service cart.
in an atrium of about a 15-story hotel.
Yeah, and it goes down like 10 floors, and it goes right into a trash can. And
with
the
a
whole thing,
rotating lid and just winds it right up. It's the craziest thing we've ever seen.
as
you
I
know,
say, you can't make this shit up. You can't
Can't make
make this shit up. Okay, so
I've forgotten
all
more
right.
good stories than most people ever lived.
let's talk about.
I'm only 50. Never thought I'd live this long.
Well, Dad, that's what Dad told me. He goes, I never thought I'd live to be past 55, so I lived my life that way.
Yeah, right. Well,
Fuck, he made it to 83. Oh, by the way,
he's the longest living McClure in history. If I made it,
well, anyway, I gotta tell you, I did this on video. You know, I really need to thank you for what you did for Dad. You really took care of Dad in his you know, his last years. Like, I couldn't believe. You know, I did it for my mom, but what you did for Dad was unbelievable. No, I appreciate
Listen,
it.
I appreciate your recognition of that, but I only gave my father the same respect that he gave me, and
But-
that I was taught to give them.
Yeah, you know, he had chips left over in the fucking game.
Yeah. No, I just did what I was taught.
You know, it's fucked up. I remember you calling me the moment he died, and you stopped the clock. You stopped the clock in the room that day. I think you took the battery out or something. You stopped it, and then I
A
had
red clock.
no, not the red one. It was another one.
Okay.
It was a cheaper like railroad clock.
Oh
right?
yeah, okay.
And then I had a railroad clock, right?
Right.
That was stopped. And how in the fuck did those end up on the same time? No, that was weird.
Freakier things have happened, but
That
that's
was
pretty
weird.
freaky.
It was weird. And so I took mom one day kicked me when I'm changing her diaper. And this is like, I'm like at the end of my fucking rope. You know what I mean? She goes, I wasn't supposed to turn out this way. I go, yeah. She
Who is?
kicked like a mule. Little bitch.
Jenny.
Oh shit, man! I go flying. So I got her, you know, finished changing her diaper, get her into the room, get her some champagne. I call fucking hospice, and I go, respite care, baby. She's out here. You got to get her out of here. Hospice, Midland Hospice, or Grace Hospice. Grace Hospice saved my life. And so they took her out of there, and when we took her back to her room where she was going to be, it was right next to Dad's room
That's
where he
crazy.
died.
In Lexington.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I know. I didn't tell Mom that
That's crazy.
until later.
That's crazy.
No, it was.
Yeah, for all those people who are interested in donating money to a worthy cause, go through a death with hospice and you'll understand the benefit that it can be to the dying family and to the person who's dying.
Yeah. And don't try to do it yourself.
Oh, God.
No, you know, go to any of the companies that Jim Klossman runs. He does it good. And just, you know, let professional people do it. Don't try to do it in your home. You know, it about killed me.
Listen, Dad was at Fleming Court and Mother had died there with hospice helping. And then, you know, he didn't eat real well. He went into a depression. He developed level 1 or stage 1 diabetes because his diet deteriorated. And you know, we'd go over and see him as often as possible. I was running a business. You know, I had 3 children, 3 girls that were in ballet and soccer and this and that and the other, and so we were very busy. And Dad ended up on the floor for, like, I don't know, maybe 16 hours. And yeah, we wouldn't answer the door. I had to go around, break into the window, and we found him on the floor. We took him to the hospital. He was in a diabetic, he had a diabetic seizure. And 4 or 5 days later, when he got out of the hospital, maybe a week later, I had already made arrangements with
Thornton Place.
Yeah, with Thornton Place to have him moved out there. We got him, and I just had, Mom had this decorator. Shirley had this decorator that had come in, and I called him to come in and take all the stuff, you know, curtains, valances, furniture, and make a micro apartment from this 2-bedroom apartment they had into this little studio at Thornton Place.
Well, it was a 1-bedroom.
It was a 1-bedroom studio, but yeah. So, but he took the things that were in the home and moved them into this apartment. And when I picked Dad up from the hospital, and I said, "We're going home." And he says, "Well, this isn't the way home." I said, "Well, Dad, your home's changed." And he was a little, he was a little reluctant, but
because you couldn't tell him to fucking do anything.
But yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but at this point in time,
But
you know,
that
he just
wasn't-
gotten out of the hospital,
That
and I
was
was
in the family.
driving, so yeah.
Yeah.
And so he, you know, he reluctantly went along. But as we walked down the hall, we held hands, and I opened the door, and he saw this little microcosm of an apartment that was basically a shrunk. All his stuff, it was already there. The bed was made, the valances were there, the curtains were there, his sofa was there, his chair was there, nightstand, clocks, pictures, and he started weeping as
Yeah.
Dad did.
Yeah.
And he just opened his arms up and said, "Thank you, Matthew. I really appreciate that." I said, "Dad, it's just that we need to have you have some more attention, and it's easier for us. We'll take care of the rest
Hey,
of the stuff."
Trust me, he talked to me about it. He talked to me about how your stock went way up.
Yeah, well, I was just, you know, it's just one of those executive decisions you got to make.
Right.
And you know,
And you did a good job
I
of
was-
everything that you did.
I was blessed to be able
You
to
did
have the state of mind to be able to do that.
But I got to tell you, when I taking care of my mom, that about did me in.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, luckily Candy and Allison
telling-
and you were available. We
I'm
all
tell-
kind of took turns.
I'm telling the hospice lady, are these drugs the nurse for me or her?
Well, I can tell you a few stories about that, but we'll leave those in the past.
Well, okay. You know, nothing, no governor, no filter. You know, you don't have to. This isn't.
My privacy
This is
filter is a little higher than Henry's.
This is hit confession.
Yeah, right. Well, little confession for the Catholics and all.
I like being Episcopalian because any religion started by Henry.
King Henry.
Yes, I can get behind that. I really like the new movement out there, Black Panties Matter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a movement I
I think
get
all
behind.
lives matter.
Black panties.
Blue lives matter.
Cool.
Black lives matter.
Or
White
actually
lives matter.
black yoga
Women
pants.
matter. We
Black-
all matter. Children
No, we
matter.
don't
All people matter.
The world matters.
That's right.
The universe. Aliens. Unicorns. We all matter.
So,
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming live on the Harry Calmary update.
as usual, it turned to McClure more than Mr. Calmary, however.
Well, that's our favorite topic.
Yeah, well,
Oh, hey, I made a really nice video for Tom McClure the other day in front of McClure School.
I tell you what,
I sang
Tom
for him.
McClure is a wonderful guy.
Right.
He's a super example of,
No, he's a great guy. And I wonder why, we didn't do a lot. I don't really remember our families doing a lot, but
I remember holidays,
Some.
Thanksgiving,
Some.
over at Uncle Jim's, some. But
I just
Jim-
remember the story about
Jim was his
about
dad,
Dad.
worse than Dad.
throwing a fork and hitting Uncle Jim in the forehead. Did you know that? And it
No, but
stuck.
I know they used to fight like that.
No, they did, and the fork stuck.
Oh, God.
No, the judge came unglued.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad was.
Oh,
on
did
it.
you know that Uncle Jim gave Dad a vasectomy?
He gave him an extra snip, is the way Dad said it. He said, "Oh." Dad about jumped off the table because Dad. I think he did it without anesthetics.
Dad was probably hammered, but whatever.
Whatever. I don't know. I wasn't there.
I don't know.
Obviously, that was post Matt
But yeah,
and post Henry.
well, it's our duty. It's our duty to keep the McClure name good and maybe rebuild some of it. I got a little rebuilding to do, but
We all do.
yeah,
One day at a time.
you know, Dorothy Hill, whose dad was Ray Smalley, who was a big developer, developed a lot of houses in Westboro, developed Pauline, you know.
Really?
Yeah. Dorothy was my mom's best friend, kind of almost like a second mom.
Yeah, I used to work for Fred Hill. down
Yeah,
at
Fred
Rapiers.
was cool.
Yeah, Fred was real cool. He ran the shoe.
He was like a
department.
gentleman's gentleman.
Yeah, he was. He was. Well, he had a haberdashery, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a men's store
Right.
over in Westboro.
Right. With the Cohen.
Yeah, yeah.
The Cohen brothers. Yeah, this was all men's haberdashery. That's where Harry used
Yeah.
to get his Hickey Freemans, I'm sure.
Well,
Not to be advertising anybody, but I'm sure
you
Harry
can
wore
advertise
Hickey.
it everywhere.
I
This
know.
is a fucking commercial thing. We
Yeah,
want to
but-
get, we're hashtag Hickey Freeman to get some goddamn money. But anyway, Dorothy goes, we were down in, I was living in Clearwater and I was just not happy with the deal I had, wanted to make a new deal. And I said, Dorothy, what about coming back to Topeka? She goes, hey, you ought to come back to Topeka. McClure's a good name in Topeka, Kansas. Well, that was nice. And that was really the reason I came back.
I've always been enjoyed a rich heritage here
Yeah.
from my family. To Sam, the minister, third minister of the First Presbyterian Church, the judge, of course, and our father.
You
and
know,
Uncle
when
Jim.
when you think about Dad, you know, he formed the first farm corporation.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah. He formed,
Well,
remember that?
he had
What was that
CT
big
Corp.
tall bird? What was that big tall lady that had a farm down in,
Tuttle, Cecil Tuttle.
yep, the Tuttle Ranch was built,
Huge.
it was 36 sections.
Yeah, it was huge.
And
Like
it
the
crossed
biggest farm in
Oklahoma and
Oklahoma.
Kansas.
Yeah, right
it
on the
crossed
border.
both of them.
Yeah.
And so Dad created a farm corporation for tax reasons. And that was the first farm
I'm
corporation.
surprised he didn't do some work for the Adams.
I don't know. He was, the Adams were Sigma Chi's. Dad was a Phi Delta,
Yeah, well,
you know, whatever.
the Adams have a big ranch out in western Kansas. Big ranch.
Well, that's for another day.
Yeah.
Hey, I've enjoyed talking to my brother Matt and Harry Colmary, and you got a little spice of the McClure Brotherhood. So thanks for tuning in. If you watch this thing all the way to the end, you got fucking patience. Henry McClure.